Hello everybody, my name is Bill Hoy, and this is a video presentation on climate engineering. My website is willhoy.com, willhoey.com. I also I have some other climate engineering videos on Minds and BitChute under bhoy333, bhoey333. Also on my website, under the section Toxic Planet, I have a presentation video titled "The World is a Garbage Dump" that has a lot of information on climate engineering programs. And also I have 5 audio presentations, starting with the first one, solar radiation management, and then there's artificial ice nucleation, and then there's another video on ionospheric heaters, another video on psychological aspects of climate engineering, and then the last is the occult aspects of climate engineering. That's on my website, willhoy.com. So I'm doing this presentation right now just as a, I don't know, I'm just beside myself with the denial of these programs and all the kinds of things that are going on with these programs and people's denial of many different aspects, either of these programs completely or different aspects. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. And right now there's massive winter weather warfare. We're in January 2021, and California is being the weather over California, which is always the case, but you look at my videos, you'll see that these programs have been ongoing for decades, and weather manipulation has been going on nonstop. But California's, this is the end of January, California's being having the weather over their airspace manipulated, causing a lot of problems, and this storm will be coming east to us, and they will be manipulating it here in the east for snowstorms. Look up artificial ice nucleation. So, going to the presentation. Climate engineering programs exist. Just want to let you know, folks. This is my new setup. I'm still trying to get my camera set up the way I really would like it, and I had technical difficulties with my former camera, and mechanically it does not work anymore. And I have a new camera, new setup. So I'll be periodically looking at my screen, and then I'll be coming back to the camera. So it just might be a little annoying. It's annoying for me, but it's about the information, right? Yeah. But anyway, climate engineering programs exist, folks. They exist. Deal with it. Get over it. These programs exist. They've been in existence for a long time. Get your head out of your ass. I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of the nonsense. I'm so sick of the nonsense. Use your sense of reason. Use your sense of reason. Weather manipulation is blatantly obvious, and I'm gonna point this out to you. This is blatantly obvious. Period. So sick of this crap. Stop waiting for Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and the BBC to tell you that these programs are in existence. Stop waiting for the mainstream media. Everyone wants to wait for the mainstream media to tell them what's going on. Folks, all you have to do is look at the the whole complete lie by all mainstream media sources in concert about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, among many otherwise, especially with this current SARS-CoV-2 situation. I mean, those are blatant lies. I mean, most of what the mainstream media does is just withhold information. That's really what they do. The mainstream media, more than out and out lies, just withholds information, because once again, if people don't hear it on the news, it's not reality. And I mean, the whole idea of the complete complete togetherness of all mainstream media sources, the former media sources I just mentioned, along with the newspaper sources, New York Times, Washington Post, all of them. Even your internet sites, probably. I don't know. I wasn't looking at the internet sites at the time. But they were all in concert. The mainstream news sources were all together, all in concert about weapons of mass destruction. And of course, you know, you got the Stockholm Syndrome. People will say, oh, well, they didn't know. Well, first thing, it's their job to know. Someone's job is to know what's going on and to be a check and balance to people who are power seekers. Like I said, that's their job. And obviously they failed at their job. I say it was willingly. They did it willingly. Willful lying. But, you know, people with the Stockholm Syndrome will try to defend these mainstream news sources by saying they didn't know. Well, it's their job to know. It's their job to know. And even if they're trying to find something out and there's being information withheld from them, they have to let the public know, hey, we're trying to find out about these weapons of mass destruction and people are not answering our questions. So once again, whether it was willful or not, the mainstream media didn't do their job. They failed and they need to not be relied on. And once again, I say it was willful. I'd say they willfully lied. That's what I say. I'm not suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Think for yourself. Think for yourself, folks. Think for yourself. Damn, I'm so aggravated, dude. I'm so aggravated with all these people out here. Look, I understand that the idea of weather manipulation is so unbelievably foreign to you. It's so unimaginable. I understand. I understand. I talk a lot about this in the psychological aspects of my audio presentation. And you have to think. First thing, certain corporations and the military is involved in just about all these programs. U.S. military and all other militaries, all the major superpower militaries. I've mentioned Fox News published reports of the Chinese military creating snowstorms. That was back in the early 2000s, I think like 2006, something like that. There's an environmental modification treaty that's basically an agreement between the superpowers to only geoengineer on their own territories, in their own territories. But just look how, you know, there's genetic modification of foods. Foods are the genetic structures of plants are being manipulated. The DNA structures of viruses under gain of function research is being manipulated. Folks, the coronavirus, what they're calling a coronavirus 19 is a base coronavirus. At least this is from what I understand, what I've learned. It's a base, the coronavirus is a base that was patented illegally by the CDC, and then they're adding severe acute respiratory syndrome to the coronavirus. Historically, at least this is from what I heard, coronaviruses were not, did not cause severe respiratory distress, and apparently many peer-reviewed science reports are coming out that this was added under gain-of-function research. And so food's being manipulated, plants are being manipulated, viruses are being manipulated. Doesn't it stand to reason that the weather can be manipulated? And I understand, once again, people just can't fathom that. And I'm going to make this, once again, I've gone over all this before, but I'm going to do it again. I'm going to make this very simple, and I'm going to make you understand. I'm not going to make you, but I'm going to try to help you understand. I'm going to try to. I'm just beside myself, folks. This is just. I'm just so sick of this. I'm so sick of this. Let's just get into the presentation. All right. It's this simple. Okay. This is very simple. You have to A lot of people, when they think of weather modification, they get these grandiose ideas in their head about manipulating storms and moving storms. There is technology out there to do that. You could look into that. Okay, there's technology out there to do this. Once again, a good website is geoengineeringwatch.org. Has a lot of information about a lot of this stuff as well. Also, the Carnicom Institute, very good websites. This is very simple. Okay, let's make this very simple. I'm gonna go to the bullet point. So once again, think for yourself. Bullet point number 1. When airplane emissions fill the entire sky and completely block the sun, or partially, that is weather manipulation, period. Period. Prior to those airplanes flying through the sky was clear. It was a clear day. Airplanes come in the sky, their emissions fill the sky, obscure to completely blocking the sun. That is now a change in weather, right? Don't you hear the weathermen talk about it's going to be a clear day or it's going to be a cloudy day, which these are not clouds. These are not clouds. You know, it goes from a clear day to an obscured day. That is changing the weather. Right? Just like I said, the weatherman or woman says it's going to be a clear day or it's going to be a cloudy day. That's the weather. That is weather manipulation. Period. When airplanes turn a clear day to a cloudy day, that is, well, they're not clouds once again, obscured day. That is weather manipulation. I don't care what your fucking intentions are. That's weather manipulation. I'm so sick of this shit. It's crazy, man. So, I'm just so pissed off. I can't even think right now. I've just had it with this shit. I really have. So I'm just going to go to the second bullet point. Weather manipulation means any alteration in the biosphere, especially the atmosphere. Folks, any alteration by humans is weather modification. Any alteration. Once again, don't care what your intentions are. We're going to get to this. Don't care what you're emitting. I don't care what you want to call it. I'm so sick of these word games. Everybody wants to play word games. We'll wait till they actually call it geoengineering to acknowledge that it's geoengineering. You know, it's unbelievable. Any alteration in the biosphere, the oceans, the atmosphere, is weather manipulation. So let's go back to the third bullet point. There have been mainstream news reports and documentaries done on these programs, NASA and NOAA studies. Folks, let me tell you something. There are mainstream news clips, old news clips out there. Once again, geoengineeringwatch.org played a clip from an old news clip from, I think it was like the early 90s, of them openly talking about, they called them condensation trails, and they openly talked about how these condensation trails manipulate the weather. I saw a documentary, I think it was an A&E documentary on weather modification. They covered it all. They covered the small little cloud seeding programs out west, hail suppression, all that kinds of stuff. Cloud seeding for rain, the small little, not the large military operations, but the small little single propeller plane cloud seeding operations. Now, if these little single propeller planes can do these operations, what do you think the U.S. military and other militaries can do with DC-10 and KC-130s? Those are planes, large jet planes. So A&E did a documentary on this. Once again, all the while, the mainstream news is not saying we're geoengineering. The mainstream news and all the political mouthpieces are saying it's a proposal. But once again, it's clear that these airplane emissions and what they're calling condensation absolutely manipulates the weather. That's manipulating the weather no matter what you want to call it. You got NASA and NOAA studies that I looked at the studies. They specifically show that condensation trails, once again, what they're calling them, reflect sunlight, making it cooler, and trap warm air at the surface. That's weather modification. Once again, don't care what your intentions are. That's weather modification. What do we have to, before we decide to really want to do something about this, we have to wait until whoever, the military, politicians, whatever, decide to admit, okay, we're intending to manipulate the weather, then we address this? No, they're manipulating the weather, whatever no matter what their intentions are. The information is in your face, man. It's right there. And this is just some information, very small amount. There's massive amounts of documents. Once again, that document, the ENMOD treaty between the superpowers, that document's like 800 pages, dude, 750 pages. I mean, this information is right in front of your face. Once again, let's simplify it. You got a clear day. That's weather. Airplanes come in. Now you have an obscured day. Those emissions block the sun, thereby making it cool. That's weather. That's temperature. Temperature's a part of weather, right? They also trap heat at the surface, making it warmer at night. That's weather. That's the weather. What's tonight's weather? It's going to be the temperatures are going to maintain a constant temperature because there's what they would call cloud cover over us, which is, these airplane emissions aren't clouds. They're airplane emissions. They're aerosols, is what based on lab tests around the world, from what I've seen, these are aerosols, airborne soft metals, airborne particles, airborne soft metals, nanoparticles. But once again, they're saying it's cloud cover, they're saying it's condensation. That's still weather manipulation. That's still weather manipulation. What's the weather tonight? It's going to be warm. The temperature is going to maintain a constant. I got to keep saying this over and over again. I don't care if I'm repeating. Most of all this stuff really I've repeated. I'm just concentrating it into this little presentation. I pretty much said everything that I'm saying here already. I'm just ready to go nuts, man. Because it's just the idiocy is just it's getting to me, man. It's getting to me. I could imagine these guys out here who've been doing, you know, great work of trying to inform people for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. They must be really smashing their heads against walls. So let's move on to the next bullet point. That's my heating system creaking. So next bullet point. It does not matter if the emissions are just harmless condensation trails. I alluded to a little bit about that earlier. You know, it doesn't matter if they're just condensation trails, which I say they're not, based on evidence. And it doesn't matter. It's still weather manipulation. Period. Deal with it. Get your head out of your ass. And let me tell you something. I put just harmless condensation trails in quotes, and I've touched on this before in previous works. That even condensation trails are not harmless. And I looked into some pretty extensive independent research studies. I mean, reading through these research studies, you know, give you a headache looking through all this stuff. It's rough. But what I found is that these even condensation trails are they're not just harmless, they're extremely damaging to the ozone layer, extremely damaging. And then of course these metal aerosols are nanoparticles are insanely, extremely damaging to the ozone layer. But even just, quote unquote, just harmless condensation trails are not harmless. Very damaging to the ozone layer. Very damaging to the ozone layer. Let me just see if... Just had to take a look around for my cat. Sometimes he likes to jump up on my counters. I hear something going on back there. I looked at the studies, man. This is years ago. I looked deep into this, man. I really did. I remember. I've talked about this before in past works, but I'm just going to talk about it again. I looked deep into this, man. The whole idea of just harmless condensation trails, and I found that just condensation trails, even themselves, are not harmless in any way, shape, or form. Not harmless in any way, shape, or form. Now let's talk a little psychology. I think people want geoengineering programs to exist. I think deep down unconsciously, most people want geoengineering programs to exist. They want to think that somebody's doing something to help the climate. Let me tell you something, folks. It's a simple mathematical equation. You cannot solve the ills of species domination ideology, which in this case is domination over nature, and while nature is not actually a species, this planet is a living organism that has a homeostasis, and this is part of domination ideology. And I say it's part of species domination ideology, that human species, while this isn't a situation where humans are not dominating within or between species, but they're dominating nature. And I say this is a part of the species domination ideology, and you can't cure the results, horrible results of species domination ideology, which is going to be total, complete collapse of all of our life support systems, with more species domination ideology. It's a simple mathematical equation. Cancels itself out. I'm not a mathematician, but try to think for myself, right? Think for yourself. Do you think using pretty much the same types of technology to quote unquote cure what we're pretty much humans from industrial activities are pretty much doing as a result of these industrial activities? You know, I mean, let's cure pollution with pollution. How does that make sense? We're going to cure pollution with pollution. And you know what? I really think deep down, people just want to look the other way and really actually deep down want these programs to exist. I think they do. And these programs do enable, as far as what I've looked at, us humans to continue this paradigm of industrialization and militarization and the species domination ideology. We can continue this horrendous practices because the climate engineering programs actually give people what they want. Look at all the people who have so much disdain for Al Gore. Artificial ice nucleation. I think that gives them what they want. I think they love it. I think they love it when these geoengineered snowstorms come in. I think they like it. Ha ha, Al Gore. Look, it's snowing. Yeah, it's snowing because they're fucking cloud seeding, dude. They're manipulating these storms with ionospheric heaters. Airplanes in the sky. But once again, I'm trying to just keep this as simple. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible and just make people understand that weather modification is absolutely happening and it's blatantly obvious and it's easy to figure out. And I'll just go to the last bullet point. Hold on one second. I gotta pause something. All right, I'm back. So I'm gonna go to the last bullet point. And there are some people in the anti-geoengineering movement that need to realize what they are asking for. There needs to be a consensus on why these programs need to end. What do I mean by that? Well, I think a lot of people in the anti-geoengineering movement think that if we humans just, you know, stop geoengineering, that all our problems will be solved. And I don't think they really realize how serious this is. I don't think they really realize how serious this is. I'm not a scientist, but based on what I've seen, when these reflective particles drop out of the atmosphere, we could see some severe backlash. I've talked about all this. I just want to cover this again. And to be honest with you, I think unconsciously, even maybe consciously, a lot of these people who are anti-geoengineering really don't truly understand what challenges we face after the ending of these programs. These programs are going to end one way or another, but I don't think they understand the possible consequences. And I think deep down inside, most of these people really want to stick with their paradigm of, I don't know, I guess for some leisure, and I don't think they really realize how much their lives are going to change. Because let me tell you something, folks. Once again, it's a bit of psychology. I'll go I'll point out what I think many of the secret societies and politicians, bankers, all these people, powers that shouldn't be. I absolutely think that many of them think, look at these ungrateful people. Because of these geoengineering programs, we're making it possible for them to continue their paradigms of leisure, and their daily paradigms, whatever those paradigms are not being massively altered or interrupted. How ungrateful these people are. And I really think that plays on both sides of it. I think many of the people really, truly, even just not just anti-geoengineering people, but all people, most people really don't want these programs to end. In a sense, I'm getting a little bit twisted up, but I can see how a lot, this controller class would have disdain for people demanding the ending of climate engineering programs, because I'm sure they view that as ungrateful, and I'm sure on the other side, the people asking for the end of these climate engineering problems, a lot of climate engineering programs, a lot of the anti-geoengineer people don't truly understand how much their lives are going to change when these programs end. And believe me, folks, I am not advocating for the continuation of these programs. Once again, these programs have been active for decades. Well, it's all been released on Freedom of Information. I mean, most of what I've seen. I don't think a lot of geoengineering people really understand what. I mean, folks, it's very possible we've gone too far with this. It's very possible. Meaning, these programs end, we could see mass extinctions, billions of people. But these programs have to end. They have to end. They have to end because it's the right thing to do. They have to end because ending these programs would put us more in alignment with natural law. Climate engineering programs are the absolute worst violation. I'm saying they're the worst violation of natural law. I mean, all the natural law violations that are going on in our current human condition are pretty much equally horrific. But this is probably, I'd have to say, the worst, because this is total annihilation we're talking about here, man. And once again, to simplify it, we have to just look at the basics and start getting honest with ourselves and saying what these airplanes are doing, no matter what you want to call it, that's weather manipulation, period. We start there. And start getting the courage to look into these programs, and start getting the courage to be honest with ourselves. And there's a lot of people being dishonest with themselves to go around. A lot of that to go around. A lot of that going around. Well, folks, I think also, like I said, I just want to mention, once again, anti-geoengineering people. I think anti-geoengineering people need to start really getting real about and understanding what they're asking for. These programs end, we could seriously see some serious disruptions. I mean, once again, these programs end, we still have massive challenges ahead of us. But they have to end. They have to end now. And the more we continue these programs, the more, if it's not already possible now, the possibility could be that it's going to be too late. And I mean, look at it this way. We continue these programs, we're guaranteed the complete collapse of all of our life support systems. But if we stop them, maybe we got a chance. It's the right thing to do under natural law, first thing, but also maybe we got a chance. I think we do. I think we have a chance. This planet is very resilient. This planet's tough. But you know, I've covered the bioavailability of these nanoparticles and everything. This is bad stuff, and it needs to end. And I think that's probably it. I just wanted to make this a short video, and yeah, I you know, got a bit vitriolic here. Just this is bad. Think for yourself, folks. Okay, hold on. All right. All right, this is going to be it. All right, man. Wake up.